Hello, friend. Welcome to another episode of the Mount Rushmore of Everything. This week, we are talking about Disney animated villains. Who do you want to start? I'll let you choose this time. You want me to start?
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm okay with that, because there's
okay.
exactly one that I am extremely confident in. There's one that I think is non-negotiable, and it's Scar. What's the laugh? You don't have Scar?
No.
Oh my goodness, we're in for a rough day. Wow.
No, that is not right.
What? Scar is so non-negotiable.
Yeah, it's a good villain, and it has very good motivations, and it's so well performed. But you don't think, when you think Disney villains, you don't
That's
think
the
of
first
Scar.
thing I think of. Every single person I talked to this week, every single one mentioned Scar, and then there was a pause before they could come up with the second one. Everyone.
Really?
Yeah.
That wasn't my experience. No.
Interesting. Well, you'll have to let us know what you think. But so for me, I thought to myself, okay, if we had a family feud of Disney villains, what do I think is that first answer? I thought it would be Scar. Seemingly number one on almost any list that I could look up. If it wasn't number one, it was sometimes number two, but generally it was number one on any
It was top 5, at least.
It was at least top 5. Iconic name, iconic appearance, iconic character. There's actually some character depth, because there's a lot of Disney villains that frankly don't have depth. Probably the most famous villain, I thought, and the most famous Disney movie, right? Like if you think Disney animated movie, Scar, or The Lion King at least, is the movie. And then he's the very iconic villain of that, so I thought that was helpful. So overall, I thought Scar was a self-evident, non-negotiable
I just couldn't put him.
But here we are.
I couldn't put him in my list. I considered him.
Let's see how this goes. Give us your first. Do you have any non-negotiables?
I would say 1.
Okay. What is that non-negotiable?
But I'm not even that convinced it is, but I'm just going to put it out there. And that's the one that came up, when you ask a question, okay, the first one that comes to mind, and it's Maleficent.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't have her.
Oh, wow, man.
Here's a first.
Oh, this is tough.
First. Yeah, well, this is interesting.
Her motivation is not that big. No. But it's just the iconicness of her, of her image, and her turning into the dragon. And that dragon, they use the dragon in the shows in Disney World and Disneyland, and it's her. And it's an image that is like very branded in people's brains as a Disney movie villain. So...
very understandable. I have no problem with that pick. But I went in a different direction.
All right.
And this is already getting into territory where I'm like...
I know.
But the next one I'm going to go with is the Evil Queen. Because in this case, I thought, okay, if you look for Disney villains or whatever, they're often in the picture. And they're often towards the middle. Especially the Evil Queen, which is often in that center as the first. So in this case, I ended up choosing her more based on the fact that she was used as a template that they kept going back to. She's that first quintessential evil stepmother archetype that they ended up going back to. She's sort of the original villain that sort of set the standard of what a Disney villain would look like. She's a part of what revolutionized that portrayal of witches from old, ugly, decrepit-looking, short, hunched-over beings that look barely human at that point to like... the beautiful, tall, majestic, queenly-like witch. She's really the start of that. And then AFI had 100 Years, 100 Villains list.
She's in that list.
She is on that list, and she is number 1 for Disney. Only 2 made it, by the way, from Disney. She's number 1 for Disney and number 10 overall on that list, which is really what solidified it, because honestly, she was at that precipice for me that, like, I think she loses. So we always talk about categories, right? And I think, frankly, she loses for the name, right? Like I saw what her actual name was. Nobody knows what her name is.
I don't know what her name is.
But on the other side of the coin, the Evil Queen is her. For example, when you say the Dark Lord and you know who that is, like that's such a generic title that if you associate it to a single person, that might actually be points in their favor. So I'm like, okay, that's a balanced way of looking at it.
That's
maybe.
The Evil Queen, period.
Yeah. Her appearance is certainly iconic, right? All of these are iconic, though. That's the problem, right? Is there's so many.
Yeah.
Just saying, like, they're iconic is not enough. The level of iconic you have to be in those 4 that we're choosing out of this very large list of iconic, important villains to Disney as a whole was difficult, but it ended up being that OG credit and the fact that she influenced, apparently even Scar, they somewhat used her as a template, which I don't understand how that works because they're pretty different. And she's frankly not a very good character. That movie's really not very good. Sorry, it's just not a good movie. But I ended up going with her based on the original credit.
Well, I don't have her on my list.
We might be in for a treat this time.
Here's my next one.
Yeah.
And I can't even remember her name, but this is Cinderella's stepmother.
Really?
Yeah.
We are in trouble. I do not have her.
Following the same trend as the evil queen, this is the evil stepmother. It is just, I always had her as a very terrifying person, and I could identify with the pain of poor Cinderella.
Cinderella.
Yeah. So the performance that she gives in that movie, the motivation that she has for being evil, I mean, she's greedy. Definitely a big motivator, more than just being pure evil, or like the queen, it was just beauty. Which, in a sense, is kind of a greed.
Yeah, she maybe has a little more dimensions than Disney had up until that point.
Yeah. I like that she doesn't use magic, so she's not a witch or a wizard or anything like that.
Yeah, she's just a person.
Just a person, and it's like pure evil, pure bad intentions in that person. So, yeah, that's who I picked them for that.
All right, well, we are 0 for 2.
Yeah.
So the next one that I'm going to decide to lock in may be a little bit of a surprise, but it was a late riser that ended up making a lot of sense to me. And it is an old school one. It is Cruella de Vil.
You have Cruella?
I do.
I have Cruella.
Okay. If you told me the first one we would agree on would be Cruella, I never would have guessed that.
Oh, man.
Interesting. Okay, so something I thought of is, man, this is... And I even Googled, if you look at the movie covers, for all the ones except the original, she is the featured part of the cover. Like, I remember Cruella de Vil. I remember her car. Having watched this movie,
she's one of the only villains, as far as I'm concerned, as I found out, that has her own theme with her name.
Her name, yeah.
In the theme.
Yeah. Most iconic villain name, possibly. I mean, Cruella de Vil is like a... You know that name. It's an iconic, memorable name. Unlike some of the other ones we've mentioned where it's like, the evil queen, what's her real name? Lady Tremaine. We had to look to refigure that out, right? Like, some of these other ones are lacking in iconicness in certain categories.
Yeah.
Cruella de Vil, I mean, her appearance is iconic. Her name is iconic. Her car is iconic. Everything about her is iconic. Also, that AFI list, she is the second person for Disney. The only other Disney villain that appears on that list, number 39, which is really what solidified it. So Cruella de Vil and Evil Queen are the only ones to even make that list. And what's really interesting, too, is another compelling argument for her, I think, is she does not have the advantage, 2 different advantages that some of these other ones have. One is a fairy tale behind it, right? She comes from a book that, frankly, nobody knows or cares about. And that's not to insult the book, right? I'm sure it's a great book. That's why they made it off of it and all that. But it's sort of like when you find out Jurassic Park was a book. You know Jurassic Park as the movie. And even though it probably was a great book, it might even be better than the movie. It probably is better than the movie. The movies are great. And in this way, Cruella de Vil and even 101 Dalmatians, there's no fairy tale that is getting iconicness, right?
They were at a point that they wanted to go in a different direction because they have been doing fairy tales. And
and unlike,
what else is out there?
And unlike the evil stepmother, unlike the evil queen, unlike Maleficent, right? Like all of these have somewhat, but some of their iconicness might be because, well, they're really iconic movies they were a part of. When you think of the most iconic Disney movies, you think of the princess movies. So they have that advantage. They also have the advantage that, you know, they were fairy tales that everybody knew before them.
They were familiar. We were familiar with them,
Yeah, but Cruella de Vil doesn't have any of those advantages, and yet she's playing with the big boys here with the, like, she carries her weight. All right, well, we're not going 0.
Well,
we're not going 0.
At least not. So who's next?
It's you.
All right.
We'll see how it goes.
So here we go. I'm going to go with Jafar.
Yes.
Really?
Yes, that was actually, and that's the original one I had on here.
So Jafar, again, big character that pops at in your mind right away. Iconic looks, iconic story. As far as his character, he just wants, again, greed. And it's interesting that most of the villains are motivated by greed. So he just wants this treasure, but most importantly, the lamp.
I'm surprised we agree, mostly because Jafar is also in that new era that you snubbed with Scar. And to me, obviously I agree he's on there, but to me, Jafar is kind of the lesser Scar. Scar's in the more iconic movie. Scar, I feel like, is that little bit more iconic. More people mention him. Almost everybody I talked to, it was always Scar, Jafar. And then from there, it was kind of like some people went Maleficent, some people went Evil Queen, some people went Cruella. Some people, when I said Cruella, they're like, oh, never mind to this other one, Cruella. That's the better choice. But Jafar and Scar were the two most common ones. Actually, Rotten Tomatoes did a tournament of Disney villains facing off, which I thought was interesting. It wasn't the be-all, end-all, but Jafar, for what it's worth, barely lost to someone who made the finals and the semifinals. So Jafar made it pretty far into the top 4, if you will. Scar won by a landslide. It was, I think he won by 80% in the finals, or 70-something%. It was a butt whooping. Let us know what you think in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Which ones do you think we got right? What do you think we got wrong? Let us know what your 4 are, and be sure to tell us why. We are always happy to hear from you and interact with you after the video via the comments section, so be sure to do so. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like. And hey, if you like the video, you might as well subscribe too. Click that little notification bell so you know when new videos come out. We have new videos coming out every single Thursday. We appreciate you, and we will talk to you next time.
She maybe because of my own stepmother. I don't know.
You have a lot of faith in the editor. One of these days he's going to be less benevolent.
I don't even know if she knows English, so we might be safe.
Yeah, you said that last time.
We might be safe.